Okay, and he was an excellent technician. The one who could go into triage situations and not feel the impact at all of the work he was doing. But in this one goal to be known as the very finest air ambulance system business in the Pacific Northwest, empathy was extremely, the awareness of empathy and demonstrating empathy is extremely important, not only with colleagues, but with customers. And I think that's something that Zappos shows so well.
Talk about that example of Zappos and empathy.
Well, what was important to Tony Hsieh is that not only do his employees experience happiness, but that his customers experience happiness.
That's great.
So when the original when Frank Schmerman, who was the mind behind starting the whole Zappos concept, started it, everybody told him that people wouldn't buy online shoes because women specifically would want to match the color to their outfits. People couldn't assess whether the shoe fit properly.
I was thinking that too, but he sorted that out. That's great.
He sorted that out, and he sorted it out from an empathy standpoint, which is, what if I'm standing in the customer's shoes? What do I need to provide so that trust and confidence is built? And as a result, you can order 5 pairs of shoes, try on the one, get the one that fits best, and send the other 4 back with no mail or shipping fees.
That's amazing.
Isn't it?
That is really amazing.
So. But that was an example of looking at business and looking at a customer through an empathetic lens.
But also, Dianne, wasn't it the empathy in him that allowed him to ask those questions and also to then be moved to generate the technology that would allow customers to see those shoes in 3D technology?
Well, I think so. I think empathy and the fact that he is a brilliant mind combined is a formidable force. And the absence of empathy, hiring employees with an absence of empathy, Jack Lee in his section on Refuel says, it's a disaster to hire employees without empathy.
A lot of employers in the meta message in the hiring process communicate in the unspoken that they're the suppliers. And a lot of the people looking for the job are not seen as suppliers. And I think this is very interesting. There's almost like a one-sided supply-side consciousness when it comes to organizations hiring, when in fact, the employee that's making their expertise and their gifts and their skills available, particularly if they're formidable, are not only an asset, which you said, but they are a supplier as well.
Yes.
But you don't necessarily have that kind of thinking in the hiring consciousness of the people that are hiring. They think they're the ones with the goods, when in fact, not only they have the goods, but the people they're talking to have goods that they don't even know they have.
Right, and the people that they're talking to that have this, that have the goods and the potential, need to be carefully selected so that they fit the culture of the company. And I think for employees or for people who are looking for work, making sure that culture fits, I think, is extremely, extremely important. Because you have your life force, your talent, your genius, the potential that you have, that you bring to this company, is often thrown away, minimized, disrespected, if you're not extremely careful in where you decide to spend your time.
Don't you think, Dianne, that a lot of times, in some sense, if this company doesn't have a company culture that is very much a team culture and a team spirit, that the success will co-opt or somehow function to implode the inner workings of that company at some point, but they don't know
Absolutely.
it. They don't know it.
No, they don't know it. They don't know it. Companies go through growth cycles, natural growth cycles. There's a creative genius that creates the company, and it grows to a certain point, and then they need to put into place systems that support their processes so that the work is streamlined and it flows and they're not wasting tons of dollars. Well, there comes a point where all the systems that they have put in place, the company shifts, the economy shifts, and it almost as though the company bifurcates at that point and grows, or it tends to die, so that there's a new creative process that's required to take that, and innovation to take that company to the next level. So without an understanding of the workforce, those bifurcation cycles can hit a company square between the eyes. Seiko watch was an example. It used to be you could get these wonderful, watches with that, the Rolodex and all of that had these wonderful mechanisms that were not battery operated. And then the battery-operated watch hit the market and destroyed the watch industry for those companies that didn't shift into batteries. Well, that happens. That happens frequently, and with the way information is growing so quickly, companies that do not have that ability to tap the genius within their workforce often do not change in time to be able to survive.
I liked in the book where you talked about how not only do people have to be conscious of the business they're going into, they have to be very conscious of the culture they're creating, and that the culture that they're creating or that they want to have in that business is just as important as the business. Absolutely.
And oftentimes a small business owner will create a company that actually is their personality, their values. And then as they add new layers of management, strong employees, strong people, strong leaders tend to shift the culture to their personality style. So what you get is cultural confusion. And that cultural confusion results in unnecessary conflict, good employees stepping on somebody else's turf and not knowing it. There's a lot of energy that in that cultural confusion that is wasted in conflict that's just totally unnecessary.
I thought that was a great point about cultural confusion, because it goes on invisibly, like it's in the consciousness of the organization when people don't know what it is, and you just described it, and I thought it was great.
Well, yes, they don't know what it is, and so you'll have a company that has a very strong top-down patriarchal, I'm going to say use the word patriarchal leader within the company who hears about the competitors doing so well with teams. Well, he's created this extremely competitive, internally competitive organization and says, okay, we're going to have this team do this. And people are so knowledgeable in how to win internally competitively that it just doesn't make the team concept falls flat. And I see this time and time again in hierarchies where people who are working on teams say, it's a waste of my time, it's I'm not rewarded for this, I would much rather just do my work than spend all these times in meetings trying to figure out something that we know isn't going to work, because if it doesn't flow with what the company wants to do, all our work will be disregarded and it's a waste of my time, a huge energy waste.
How do you deal with that?
The only way you can really speak with that is through the leader, and the leaders then looking at bonus and compensation systems that are in alignment with that team's efforts.
I have one last question. Of course, I could ask questions and discuss this with you for hours, probably days. In fact, I'll be right over. I want to talk about consensus because there's a lot of confusion